Let's go ahead and open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we're going to face the east towards Jerusalem. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yahshua, we thank you once again, Yah, for allowing us to come together on your Shabbat, Yah, for giving us a means, a ways, and a desire, Yahweh, to get into your holy day, Yahweh, to hallow this day and to show you your sign that truly you are our Elohim and we are your people, Yah. Yah, we humbly come before you and ask that you allow your angel that sits at the door and knock to come in and sup with us and us with him, Yah. So your name could be here on these grounds, giving us that Kodesh Mikra that you commanded us by commandment, and fulfilling that prophecy that you gave us in Ezekiel, that when we be scattered to the four corners, that we would always have a little sanctuary, Yahweh, that in which we could pray towards your holy temple, and that you would hear our prayers in our captivity. Yahweh, we ask that you provide a spirit of understanding, Yahweh, and allow us to have a better knowledge, wisdom, and way how, Yahweh, to use your scriptures, Yahweh, to walk on the narrow path, Yahweh, and to lead others away from the darkness that are truly looking to walk towards you and become a God, become one with you, Yah. So, Yah, we also ask that you forgive us of our sins and trespasses, Yahweh, and not vainly, but allow us to see, Yahweh, the error in our ways, so that we can put forth the effort, Yahweh, to make those changes in our lives, Yahweh, giving you all the glory and bearing fruit in your name, Yah. Yah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we also offer thanks, Yahweh, for traveling mercies for our elder that is now transitioning into his new phase with his family. We also ask and thank you also for safe travels for our brother Jonathan, who's also abroad. And we ask that you also grant them safe return in their journey as they seek their culture in the homeland. Yeah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we thank and pray through your holy, humble anointed Son, Yahshua HaMashiach, in which all praise, majesty, might, and dominion resides here and forevermore through you, your majesty. In the name of Yahshua HaMashiach, we thank and pray. Amen. Amen. Take that off speaker. All right, Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yadon Yasharah, my brother Wesley. How you doing, brother? Shabbat Shalom. And brother Jonathan and family is traveling. We bid them a safe journey and look forward to seeing them soon and looking at the pictures. The title of today's Shabbat study is Leaning on Your Own Understanding. Leaning on your... Can you turn the volume down on it? leaning on your own understanding. And you have a lot of brothers and sisters and people before us with a lot of great knowledge of earthly things, of carnal things, and even spiritual knowledge. And you want to definitely glean as much as you can from any individual. You don't want to be biased to somebody because of their age or their situation or what they look like or the culture. And you want to be able to receive all the message that the Most High gives you. But how do you know the difference between something that is originating from a man who is subject to being used by a spirit and something that is coming directly from Yah? And what we have to do is we have to practice learning not to lean on our own thoughts and our own beliefs and our own subset of doing things, because it has all been shaped in Babylon. It's been shaped by this culture. Every time you look at TV and you see all this violence and all these things going on, that's MK Ultra mind control they're doing on us. The CIA has practiced these things to desensitize us from knowledge, from violence, to prepare us to be able to be set off when they want to set off things to destabilize the country and take control under one world order. And that's just one example of how they're manipulating us. They're manipulating us with all the hypersexualized children they're putting on TV and with the Disney Channel, and they're putting all these different homosexual agendas and everything out there to control the way that we think and what we accept and what we will not deal with. And when you try to make your decisions solely based on what you think is based on what you've experienced, and that could be very dangerous. So we have to return back to the creator of righteousness and learn the right way of doing things. Learn the character and the Shem of the Most High, so that it's not our understanding, it's the understanding of the Most High that he allowed us to have. And then we'll always have a reference point, a safe point to go back and confirm and make sure that we're not leaning on our own understanding, but leaning on the scriptures and leaning on the word. And even when you get in the scriptures, it's been translated, so you can take it a step further and get into the original translation and look up the Hebrew words and try to understand it from the culture that it was written in, so that your own understanding doesn't mess up the interpretation and that you grasp the precept line by line, precept by precept. So we're going to discuss that topic today. We're going to first open up again in Genesis chapter 3, Bereshit chapter 3. And Shabbat Shalom, brother Brandon Pierce. Good to see you, brother. Shabbat Shalom, Melvin Shelley. Good to see you again. And Shabbat Shalom, Yafi Yehuda. Good to see you as well. And again, and Shabbat Shalom to Elder Mikael and Sister Aaliyah in their journey. It's been a long process with them trying to get their home sold and to move back to New Orleans, where they were from, so that they can, enjoy a little bit of time for themselves. They've sacrificed so much during their time, taking care of their mother when they're not the only sibling, and sacrificed a lot. Now it's their opportunity to spend their eldership, together in a little bit more enjoyment. So we're happy for them that they were a true example of faith, of patience. We were at one time hosting our Bible studies and our Shabbat while I was getting my house situations situated. And they sacrificed a lot for us to be able to bring you the word. And it made it difficult for them in their journey, but they put Yah first. And what a wonderful testament that is, to see somebody do that. And like what I told, some of the younger brothers, certain tests, the Most High is going to reserve for people that are more seasoned in the word, rather than putting that on a new person, so that the younger people can see and glean and grow from that. So congratulations on the home selling and the moving process. So let's go ahead and get ready to open up again. The title of today's Shabbat study is Leaning on Your Own Understanding, and we're opening up in Genesis, Bereshit chapter 3, and we're starting that at verse 1.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Elohim said, Yea, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die.
All right, so immediately you see that the adversary is going straight for the weaker vessel, the one that was not there to hear what the commandment was. So that's immediately who he's going after, because he can cause a root of confusion. And right in there, you see where the problem is, the difference between somebody who heard it themselves from the horse's mouth and somebody else who heard it from somebody else. So this is why you don't want to be a weaker vessel where your faith is based on what you heard from somebody else. Somebody told me this, so I just believe it. You want to be able to get back to the same reference point that they use. At least you can examine their reference point and see whether or not you want to believe. So in this situation, it was easy to deceive the woman because she didn't have the reference point. All she heard is, well, that's what my husband told me Yahweh said. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For Elohim doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as mighty ones, knowing good and evil. Mm-hmm. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat.
All right, so she leaned on her own understanding. She said, well, the devil said I ain't gonna die, and, you know, he's obviously wise. He's talking to me. He sounds like he makes sense, and it looks good. It looks pleasurable to eat and one to be desired. Well, let's go for it. Leaning onto your own understanding when you were given the understanding of obedience. You weren't taught how to be disobedient. You were taught what to do, what you need to do. You weren't taught that you were able to do anything different. You were just given instructions and do it. So now she's leaning into her own understanding and opening up a whole world of trouble. Go ahead.
Verse 7, and the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
So as soon as they committed transgression, they realized that they were no longer covered. So they sought to cover themselves. They sought to find something to cover themselves because they knew that they were in transgression. Their eyes had been opened. They didn't have that feeling before. They just knew the love of Yah. Do this. And the love of Yah, stay away from that because everything else is good, but stay away from this. This is not for me. Go ahead.
And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahweh Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that you shall not eat?
All right, so fear was now instituted into the garden. You're afraid of your creator. That's not the fear that he wanted. He wanted the fear of Yahweh, reverence. He wanted you to reverence him and have also you fear being separate from him, but you wouldn't even know the concept of being separate from the Most High if you had just followed instructions. So now not only is you realizing you naked, and now you are fearing life itself, the thing that's giving you life, you're fearing it. So if you're fearing life, the thing that's giving you life, then you're cleaving onto death. And this is exactly what happened in the garden. We cleaved onto death now. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 12. And the man said, the woman who you gave me to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the woman, what is it that you have done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life.
All right. So he said, the woman you gave me in verse 12, the woman you gave me to be with, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. So now you blaming Yahweh for him giving you help meat in the garden, and you are not taking responsibility for your own actions. This is the first man. So Yah is showing you in this first man, this is the nature of your flesh. This is the nature of your own understanding, is to not look at yourself, to place blame on everybody else and not look at yourself. You have to be trained and shown the righteousness of how to take responsibility for your own actions and how to restore situations when you made a mistake. Because if he was taught this, his own understanding wouldn't have kicked in and he would have been taught, hey, Yahweh, I made a mistake. My wife, she took of this tree. I told her not to do it and she did eat. Please forgive her. She wasn't there when you gave the commandment I gave her. Maybe there was something in my walk that caused her to disbelieve what I said, but please forgive us. What can we do to restore? Please forgive my wife. This is what you have to be taught. You have to be taught how to be a covering. This ain't something that's just naturally you know how to be a covering, because you see the first man and woman right here, how they're reacting to the situation. So ultimately, when you lean on your own understanding, you're going to lean back to the flesh and how the flesh operates with things, which is solely just to survive in its fleshly sense. But at the end of the day, the spirit understands that this is just a stage. We trying to get to the next level. We trying to get to salvation and eternal life. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 15. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, and it shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception in sorrow. Thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be unto thy husband, and he shall rule over thee.
All right, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. So, does a woman have a seed? Woman, the only time a woman have a seed is if a seed is placed in her. She has an egg. She's the soil. We have the seed. So it's not talking about a physical seed here. And this is why, that jail doctrine goes around that, the serpent was a man, was the serpent guy from G.I. Joe that slept with her or whatever and this, that. No, this is talking about a spiritual seed. This is the same understanding of when it said the sons of Yahweh saw the daughters of men were fair and went into her. It wasn't angels physically coming down here and sleeping with the women. It was the spirits. The spirits were coming down here and dwelling in the vessel of man, where there was only supposed to be the spirits of Yah dwelling in them, not the ones that left their former estate. So it's the same thing here. The woman's seed, which was the seed of disobedience because she was the one that did that, and the man's seed, which was the seed that is the servant of Yah, is going to fight, is going to have a problem from this point forward on. And the only way they can be a cod at one is if they get rid of that seed of disobedience and deal with the spirit of righteousness. And that seed, it says man or woman, but that seed could be in either one. That seed of disobedience could be in a man, or it could be in a woman, or the seed of righteousness can be in either one. So it's not as simple as, if the woman is coming with some wickedness and the man got to fix it. Nah, it's not that simple.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, sister.
So when you're talking about the story of Adam and Eve, how would you relate that? Like, it's not about a physical man and woman. Mm-hmm. Like, would it be a deeper understanding? Because I think a lot of folks, when you first hear that story, even as a child coming up, you're thinking about a woman and a man and the nakedness in the garden, but I just feel like it's a deeper sense. Is there a way you can elaborate?
There's definitely a deeper sense. First of all, this whole book is chronicling the holy seed. So at this time, there is other things going on in the earth. There's other creations being done. This is talking about in the beginning of Yahweh's seed, where his people he chose. But it is talking about a physical man and a physical woman. But that is that is for us to understand the spiritual context of what's going on. It's not all about just the carnal building and breaking down of a man. It's about all of this. So at the end of the day, when it's talking about, Adam and Eve, we read further in the story, we see that there's other things going on, but it's talking about our holy seed. It was written to us, for us, and by us. And this was supposed to be for us to grasp that holiness concept and be able to share that with the world. So yes, if you look at it from a standpoint of they were the first people created and there was nobody else in the world, it was all about them and everything came from them, you're going to have some contradiction because we see other things going on here.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 17. And unto Adam he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field.
And when you mess up, man, when you mess up because you are responsible, you curse the earth. You're not only cursing your family, you cursing the earth. That's why the land over there where my brother at right now, he over there in the Holy Land, where he at, that land is jacked up because we messed it up. And now you have a people that don't belong there over there messing up even worse. Go ahead.
In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for the dust thou art, unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife, Unto Adam and also unto his wife did Yahweh Elohim make coats of skin and clothe them.
All right, so Yahweh had to clothe them. So when man messes up, he fears the Most High, his source of life, his source of light, and tries to hide in the darkness and tries to cover himself. And in that process, because the Most High is merciful, if he chooses to have mercy on you or he chooses not to have mercy on you, he will cover you. And the Most High tried to cover us with his word. So he tried to cover us by sending the Mashiach down here to be a propitiation for us and to show us the right way. So man will immediately try to fix things himself with his own understanding. And Yahweh got to come on another layer and cover you and say that's not sufficient. Finish that up, Art?
Verse 22. And Yahweh Elohim said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore Yahweh Elohim sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
All right, so a flaming sword which turns every way. To me, that kind of sounds like a circle of fire almost, like maybe like even a volcano or something to that extent. I don't know. It's very interesting. But you see how the whole situation was, if the adversary, the devil, knew if we ate off the tree of life, we would live forever. We would never be able to be killed. So he feared us having life forever because he was deaf. So he used our own understanding against us to get us to go after the thing that would cause us to be barred from living forever. And we, from that point forward, have been working to get back to being in a position where we can live forever. All because we leaned on our own understanding, where the Most High says, you don't need to know this. All you need to know is what to do to get home. If somebody says, well, how do I get to Miami? And I tell you, well, hop on I-95, take 75 to 95, take 95 straight down, take Turnpike, get straight to Miami. You good to go. If that's what I need to do, but there's also instructions of how to get to Houston, why am I give you instructions on how to get to Houston? That's going to confuse you. Because now you're thinking, oh, I can go to Houston and maybe he's telling me that because I can find a shortcut through there. Because you don't know the geography of things. That's confusing. If this is going to cause a problem for you, the best thing I'm going to do is tell you, listen, you want to go here, this is where you need to go, then just take this route. All this other thing just adds confusion, and the Creator knew that, and that's why he said, look, stay away from that. That's not for now. Maybe when we grew up spiritually, he might said, here, now here's some more information for you to have. But at the time that it was given, he said, stay away. Now that this has been introduced, he has to now dispensate the law and give us all these laws, statutes, and commandments, because now we know all these different ways to commit wickedness. So he's got to create laws to show you, don't lean onto your own understanding and do these wicked things that you now know how to do. So let's move on. Let's go to Romans chapter 7. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Robert McCall. Good to see you. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Yonatan. Good to see you as well. Hope y'all are having a good time. Looks like y'all having a good time. Romans chapter 7. Romans chapter 7.
All right. Romans chapter 7 and verse 1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he lives? For the woman which has a husband is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he lives. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if while her husband lives she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, you also are become dead to the law by the body of Mashiach, that you should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto Elohim.
All right, so we're in verse 4 where it says you are become dead to the law. This is not saying you're dead to the commandments. This is talking about you're dead to the law of animal sacrifice, of sacrificial law, because we were dead under that law, because we had to kill something, and then it wasn't sufficient because we were not receiving the humble and contrite spirit. The whole thing it was supposed to elicit. So but we were covenanted under that law with the covenant. So we had to die. This is what this immersion is. This is why you had to die, so that you could not be under that law for the time period and become a new creature, so that you could be under this new law that skipped that predated the animal sacrifice law, the original way where you had a humble and contrite spirit before death was even entered, where you did what you were supposed to do. And if you did wrong, you repented. Go ahead.
Wherefore, my brethren, you are also become dead.
What verse are we on?
Verse 5, actually, excuse me. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter.
Exactly. So he's clarifying. He's saying, listen, when we were in the flesh, the emotions of our sins and our transgressions were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth the fruit unto death, because we felt that all we have to do is follow these commandments. And we figured, okay, if we didn't follow the commandments, there's another commandment that says all we got to do is do animal sacrifice. So what we would do is say, well, hey, I'm keeping the law. I'm doing this animal sacrifice. So I'm good. I'm walking around here like I'm holy smokes. And I'm looking at the poor person like you ain't crap because you ain't do your animal sacrifice. So I'm glad that I'm not like this sinner over here with this type of prayer. Instead of acknowledging, you know what? I'm wrong. I still did a wrong deed. There's something wrong with me if I want to continue doing transgression. Even if I have got enough money to go grab some bullocks or some sheep or lamb or whatever and sacrifice that didn't change my perspective or my mind. I was loopholing my way, thinking that it was okay, and all out through the process, I'm just killing myself. Further killing myself. So it's saying now you are under this law, wherein you are serving under the newness of the spirit, not the oldness of the letter. The newness of the spirit is, listen, I understand I'm not supposed to do these things, period. Because it's not love for me to do that to individuals, for me to not treat people the way I want to be treated, for me not to keep Yah first in my life, for me to be disobedient to my creator. That's not the way that I want to be. And I don't have to kill something in order to feel contrite and be humbled by it and to walk in repentance to kill something, because that very thing was killing us. And it was just for a temporary thing. Go ahead.
Romans chapter 7 and verse 7. What shall we say then? Is law sin? Certainly not. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. But sin, taken occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead.
All right, so we need to look at that verse because there's some things in there that cause a little bit of confusion. Verse 8, but sin taking occasion by the commandment, that's I don't understand why they wrote that way, because when you look at the Greek, it explains it perfectly simple. The word for occasion was aphrame, which is G874, aphrame, spelled A-P-H-O-R-M-E. And that's from a compound of G575 and G3729, a starting point. That is an opportunity. So So it says in there, for sin starting by the commandment deceived me. So for sin starting, so when you say occasion, by sin starting, it brought in all manner of concupiscence. Now, concupiscence is G1939. G1939, which is epithumia. Epithumia, which is spelled Epithumia. And you got to take time when it gets into these big words that, that we never use in this language and the way that they write things. If it sounds a little weird, like it don't make sense, trust me, look up the Strong's word and look at the definitions, and it's going to make perfect sense, because they're trying to hide certain things, because they're trying to basically, the way that they're translating is like, okay, you don't got to keep commandments. The way that they were trying to, I only want you to keep the things that's going to benefit my bank, and the other things, I don't want to do it because I don't want nobody pointing fingers at me. So concupiscence is a longing, especially for what is forbidden. A concupiscence is a desire, a lust after. So by the law start as the starting point, this caused me to now lust after things that I didn't know, because now, again, we got the knowledge of good and evil. So now I'm wondering, okay, well, I can't go eat off this tree. Well, why? Now I have a desire to do that. Just like when you tell a rebellious person, don't do this, he can't help it. He's really trying to do that. So this is what the law did to us. When we saw the law and we learned this way of doing things, it caused us to desire these things. Go ahead.
Verse 9. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died.
All right. Now, which law are they talking about here? Again, they're talking about the law of animal sacrifice. They're not talking about the laws of righteousness, the moral law, the ceremonial law, as far as, the holy days and things of that. They're not talking about that. They're talking about this animal sacrifice. If I know that if I do this sin, all I got to do is go do an animal sacrifice and I'll be okay, and I got money to do that, now I got this desire to do that, because I know all I got to do is do an animal sacrifice and I'm straight. That's what it's talking about. Somebody telling you don't murder somebody ain't gonna make you want to murder somebody. I'm sorry. It don't work that way. If you got a murderous spirit, you're going to murder. And you can tell me not to murder somebody, that ain't gonna make me want to murder. But if you tell me, listen, don't be late for work, because if you late for work, you're going to have to put 1 penny in the jar. I might have been wanting to be on time every day when I get up in the morning and I'm tired. Ah, man, I guess I'm going to have to put a penny in the jar. I got a whole big roll of $10 worth of pennies so I can show up late every day. But now if you didn't know that you could put a penny in a jar and be late for work and not get fired, you 7:59, you there. 7:50, you in the parking lot waiting because you don't know any other way. So don't take law and put it with the commandments. When he's talking about law, he's talking about animal sacrifice, period. And when you look at any of these writings with Paul from that perspective, it makes perfect sense and there's no contradiction. Go ahead, Op.
Romans chapter 7 and verse 10. And the commandment which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? Certainly not, but sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceeding sinful. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would that I do, that do I not.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hate, that do I. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good. Now then, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwells no good thing, for to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not.
So verse 18. For I know that in me, that is my flesh, he's talking about the flesh, dwells no good thing. So we have to remember that your flesh is loyal to itself. That's it. It needs to survive. It was designed that way so that it could survive these conditions on this earth. So we have to keep that in mind. And that's why you got to be careful with leaning into your own understanding or leaning onto somebody else's understanding without verifying it in the reference point. Because there's no good thing that dwells in the flesh. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not. The spirit wants to do something, but the flesh takes control, and we continue doing those things. Go ahead.
Verse 19. For the good that I would, I do. I do not. But the evil which I would not, that I do. Now if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. For I delight in the law of Yahweh after the inward man, but I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin which is in my members. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank Elohim through Yahshua Mashiach, our master. So then with the mind I myself serve the law of Elohim, but with the flesh the law of sin.
All right. So in the flesh, we physically do the commandments, which is keeping the commandments, which may, on certain situations, may appear as sin to other people for a lack of understanding. Or we may do something that may appear against the commandment, like with Yahshua, how he healed on the Sabbath day. And that may appear where you're not supposed to be touching people with uncleanness and people with blood on them and this, that, and the other, and making yourself unclean on the Sabbath. But in his mind, he's serving the law. He's serving Yahweh in his mind because he understands the character, the Shem of the Most High. So he doesn't have to be concerned all the time with the strict letter of the law, because he's keeping his will and desires to keep the letter of the law, but his mind is serving the spirit of the law. So this is how you can keep yourself on a normal plane. But you can't just jump straight to I'm serving Yahweh in my mind. You got to serve him in the flesh first. You got to learn the commandments, right from wrong. Do this, don't do that. Then serve in that. And then while you're serving in that, you gain an understanding of why am I doing this and why is it right and why it's wrong. Now, when a situation happens that's kind of in a gray area, that to those with less understanding, it may appear as if you're transgressing. You know that you're not trusting in what this person is telling you because you have a clear understanding of the righteousness of the law, and you are serving Yahweh in your mind and would have no desire to transgress a commandment for an occasion of the flesh. And this is what Saul is getting to. He's not saying, hey, I just trust myself to do what I want to do. Nah, he's a master of this law and understands it. Let's move on. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 3. Mishle chapter 3. And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Tanya and Brother Isaiah. It was good hanging with you yesterday. And Shabbat Shalom, Ariel Smith. It's good to see you again, sister. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Shabbat. Proverbs, Mishle, chapter 3.
Okay, Proverbs chapter 3. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them upon thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart.
All right. So forget not my Torah, but let your heart keep my commandments. For these are the things that are going to add length to your days, long life, and peace. They shall add unto you. This is how you received it, not with what you've watched and you see other people, because you see other people receive certain things, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know what's going on in their mind. You don't know what's going on in their household when they go home, when they're in their bedroom with their husband or their wife. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what problems they're dealing with. You don't know what kind of health issues, secret health issues they got going on, to a point where you just see somebody just die out the blue. You're like, oh, how'd that happen? You don't understand. So you can't make those type of decisions. This is what happens if you lean onto your own understanding, looking at a situation you don't have a full vision into and thinking, oh, well, I think this must be the way to go because look, he got a nice house and a nice car. So obviously he's doing the right thing and he doesn't keep the commandments. So let me listen to what he says because I want what he has. But at the end of the day, you got to put your trust in the creator of all these things, the gift giver, not the gifts. And he's telling you, this is how you attain onto those things. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 4. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of Elohim and man. Trust in Yahweh with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding.
All right. So how do you lean not unto your own understanding? What's a way to ensure that you lean not into your own understanding?
Being obedient.
Right.
Keeping
Being
the
obedient. Keeping the commandments. And to keep the commandments when it appears that if I don't go to work on Saturday, I'm going to make less money and I'm going to have a less opportunity to be successful. My understanding would tell me this is the busiest day of the week. This is where everybody off. This is how you make money. That's my understanding. But when you trust Yah with all your heart, see that verse 5 is giving you the answer right there. Trust Yah with all your heart. Then you know with all my heart, I'm going to keep these commandments and trust that he is going to make things beneficial to me, that he's going to give me what he promised me, length of days, long life, peace, and he's going to add these things unto me no matter what it appears like, no matter what somebody else is telling me, no matter what I may think with my own brain based on my experience. I'm going to trust him with all my heart. And that will cause you not to lean onto your own understanding because you know if the max that you understand is just a fraction. It's just not even a fraction. It wouldn't even be, I wouldn't even consider a fraction. It's that small of all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the Most High has. Go ahead.
Verse 6. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path.
And that's also part of trusting in Yah with all your heart. Because you acknowledge him in all your ways. When you getting ready to go do some wickedness, man, I'm about to shoot these brothers up. They owe me some money. You're not going to acknowledge Yahweh in that. Man, Yahweh, give me the strength to shoot these drug dealers that owe me money. You sound stupid. Yahweh ain't got nothing to do with it. You ain't even thinking about Yah when it comes to that. But when you put him before you in all your ways, everything that you want to accomplish, now you're set with a decision. Man, Yahweh, I want to go do this great thing. I want to start this business. Man, but I gotta steal from this brother to do that because I gotta kill this brother here because he's competition. Or I gotta do this. Nah, I can't dedicate this to Yah. Matter of fact, why am I doing this? I'm a man of Yah. This doesn't make any sense. Let me find another way. Yahweh, direct my path. How do I handle this thing? Because it seems like the only way I can do is to beef with this person or do this transgression or only open up on Saturdays or do whatever the case may be. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 7. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh and depart from evil. It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones.
So this is your spiritual health care. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh and depart from evil. You're not smarter than Yah. Your hand's too short to box with Elohim. You can't do it. Just accept it and allow yourself to be blessed. That doesn't mean you just accept everything that's written and you just say it is what it is. Because if you read the King James the way it is, it might be some things that's misleading. Use everything that he gave you. That's why he said, love Yah with all your heart, all your strength, all your might, all your mind. Use all of that to understand the instructions that he's given you and trust that.
Brother, let me ask you, how do you think trusting in Yah relates to, because what I've noticed, there's a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people are claiming to have a lot of anxiety in the world, and I've noticed a lot more in the recent years. This kind of epidemic of anxiety. How do you think that might relate to trusting in Yah and not even knowing to do the commandments?
Well, look at what in the New Testament it talks about not being as the heathen. When you pray, don't ask for food and clothes and all the basic stuff, because he said, man, your heavenly Father already knows that. Does he not clothe the birds, and does he not feed them? They don't work. They don't ask for none of that stuff. Right. So what, are you less worthy than that? So when the heathen and the Gentile, that doesn't have that relationship with the Most High, they afraid for everything because they don't have nothing. They don't have nobody. Right. Yeah, they heard about a God, but yeah, they heard about all these other gods too. So they don't know which one is which, whereas we know he came to us. You alone, Amos chapter 3, you alone of all the nations of the earth have I known, all the families have I known. Right. So when you trust in Yah, you're not having those basic, fears of this and fears of that. And that's why when I opened up with the class with Elder Mikael and Sister Aaliyah, the elders of our assembly led with leadership to show, listen, I'm concerned about their situation. And I'm not going to divulge all their private business, but there's things in there that any earthly person would be concerned, right, because all the answers aren't mapped out for you. And we're not used to that. But what happened is they were able to show faith by not worrying and falling apart and not putting Yah behind in a back burner so they could try to handle all these carnal obstacles themselves. And that's how you have less anxiety. When you trust the Most High, say, listen, I'm going to do everything that you told me to do, and I'm going to do the best carnally that I can and the things that I need to do. And I'm going to trust that you're going to take care of everything because that's all you've done for me my entire life, even before I knew to keep the commandments. So how much more are you going to bless me if I'm intentionally doing right to please you, and you took care of me when I was intentionally in disobedience? What kind of person would do that to you when I take care of you when you were doing wrong and now you're finally doing the thing right? Now I want to kick you out. I don't want to deal with you. A person wouldn't do that. So how much more would our Elohim bless us and be more merciful unto us?
Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 9. Honor Yahweh with your substance and with the first fruits of all your increase. So shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses shall burst out with new wine.
Right, because you trust in Yah. Listen, I'm honoring my increase. I'm giving it to Yah. How you give it? How do you give your stuff to Yah? Think about it. When we do offerings, and back in the day, we gave our first fruits, we'd wave a certain portion, and where the other portion went to?
Went to everyone else.
Right. The poor, the fatherless, the widows, the strangers, the Levites. Right. That's how you trust Yahweh. But think about it. Naturally, we think, I can't give away my extra because what happens if I need it later? Right. So you trust in yourself at that point. Nah, let me keep it because if something happens, I'm going to have it later. Right. And that's what they try to do in the wilderness. They try to take twice as much of the manna, and Yahweh made it spoil. Nah, trust me. I'm trying to build this trust. Let's do a trust fall, a spiritual trust fall. I got you. And he got us doing trust fall after trust fall after trust fall, and he's never dropped us. So this is how you're trusting Yah and not leaning to your own understanding, because the commandments say 1/10 of everything you have belongs to me. The commandments say, the first fruits belong unto Yah. The increase belongs unto Yah. And the commandments say that got to go to the poor, the fatherless, the widows, the stranger. I'm trusting him that he's going to bless me. And then he turned around and gave you the answer to that. He said in verse 10, so shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses shall burst out with new wine, because you show that you trust me. Now I can bless you with all the things that I want to give you, because when I give it to you, I know you're not going to hoard it for yourself. You're going to share it with the other people that need to receive it as well. Go ahead, Art.
Verse 11. Mm-hmm. My son, despise not the chastening of Yahweh, neither be weary of his correction. For whom Yahweh loves, he corrects. Even as a father, the son is in whom he delights. Happy is the man that finds wisdom, and the man that gets understanding.
All right. The man that finds wisdom and the man that finds understanding. The man that was chastened by the Father. He didn't just open up his book and read this thing and just had this great understanding. He got this because he was chastened by the Father, and he accepted the chastening and grew from that. That's how he got that understanding. And he's happy because he understands Yahweh still dealing with him. Because when he was in his error, Yahweh corrected him in a way that he can understand and a way that he can overcome. Go ahead.
Verse 14. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that you can desire are not to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retains her. Yahweh by wisdom has founded the earth, by understanding has he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. My son, let not them depart from your eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto your soul, and grace unto your neck. Then shall you walk in the way safely, and your foot shall not stumble. When you lie down, you shall not be afraid. Yea, you shall lie down, and your sleep shall be sweet.
There it goes.
Be not afraid.
Hold on, verse 21. Okay. My son, let not them depart from your eyes. His knowledge, his wisdom. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. Verse 22. So shall they be life unto your soul, and grace to your neck. Grace is giving you a break. Hey, look here. I should be dead for my transgression, but you're giving me time to fix this. You're chastening me so I can understand, hey, this is not right. And then you're giving me time to repent and restore and overcome. 23. Then shall you walk in your way safely, and your foot shall not stumble. So now you don't have that anxiety. You're not worried about that, because I know I'm not going to stumble. I'm not going to fall, because if I do fall and stumble, it's for me to be chastened, for me to learn this is not the way to walk. So I'm not afraid to learn. It's just like you can't get into martial arts or boxing or whatever and be afraid to get hit, or play football and be afraid to get hit. How are you going to play a contact sport and be afraid to get hit? You got to learn how not to get hit. And the only way to learn how not to get hit is to get hit and say that didn't work. I remember me and Brother Yonatan, when we first started training together, every so often we'd be matched up because we're similar height and weight. And we'll be matched up and we sitting here punching at each other. And I remember we were working on the slips. The slips is when they throw a punch and you slip to the outside. You don't block, you just slip. If the punch is coming on the right hand, then you move to your left. So the punch is coming to the outside. If the punch is coming from the left hand, then you slip to your right. So the punch goes right. All you have to do is move like this. You don't have to move much. Just move away from the punch. So the easy one for me, because I'm right-handed, a strong hand is forward, is to slip to the left. Because all I got to do is push my shoulder this way and it's coming this way. But the hard one is to slip all the way this way when the other hand is coming, so that it goes this way. So Yonatan threw a punch and I did a little lazy slip. It got bust right in my lip. You best believe I ain't get hit with that I ain't mess up that left slip ever since. When that punch comes, that shoulder's going all the way over, and that punch is sometimes way far, to the point where I can slip around and grab behind your neck. That's how good my left slip is. And this is why our instructor, he would train without gloves. That way, when you get hit, you feel the punch, and next time you ain't trying to get hit. If you ain't man enough to do that, you won't learn. If you're afraid to get hit, you're not going to learn. And then you got to keep in mind, the brothers, we ain't punching at you to knock you out. We punching so you can learn how to move out the way. The same principle applies in this word. You cannot be afraid to be chastened. You are training. You want to learn here now, so that when you go out into the world and you got to slip those spiritual darts that the adversary is throwing on you, you're not afraid to move out the way. And when you do get hit, then you understand, this is where I made my mistake. I let my pride, my flesh take a hold of me. I let my envy or my jealousy cause me to get hit, and this is how I avoid that. And Shabbat Shalom, brother Luke is cool. Good to see you, brother.
Okay, Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 25. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it comes. For Yahweh shall be your confidence, and shall keep your foot from being taken. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do it.
In other words, it's a sin to not do good when you know to do good. That is sin unto you. If you are in front of a person with an opportunity to do good, do it now, because that might be the only reason you're in front of them, and you don't know when a situation might be life or death for you or for them. Go ahead.
Say not unto your neighbor, go and come again, and tomorrow I will give when you have it by you. Devise not evil against your neighbor, seeing that he dwells securely by you. Strive not with a man without cause, if he have done you no harm. Envy you not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
In verse 30, strive not with a man without cause, if he has done nothing, he's done you no harm. Now you say, well, I wouldn't do that. If somebody didn't do nothing to me, I wouldn't do that. Why would I mess with somebody that messed to me? Well, what happens when you lean on your own understanding? Oh, you heard about that sister over there, man. She wicked, bro. She, you know what I'm saying? I heard, she lied to dudes, or, she is stealing from people, and she just got a bad attitude, bro. And now all of a sudden you striving with this sister because you leaning on your own understanding. Well, Brother West ain't never lied to me. That must be the case. Leaning on your own understanding. You're not judging properly. We are Hebrews. We're not supposed to be operating with that in those standards. We have to seek diligently in a matter before we make a judgment. And we're producing judgments. So this is how you can strive with a man without cause. All because you heard something. Or because some woman that some pretty, thick, beautiful, brown-skinned woman hurt your feelings when you was a kid. The next one come around, all of a sudden, I don't trust these women. I don't have to get away from. I got an attitude with a sister because you remind me of somebody. That's all leaning onto your own understanding. And furthermore, even if that was true, somebody can't repent. You can't. You repented, right? Supposedly. Go ahead, brother.
Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 32. For the froward is abomination to Yahweh, but his
go back to verse 31.
Okay. Envy you not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. For the froward is abomination to Yahweh, but his secret is with the righteous. The curse of Yahweh is in the house of the wicked, but he blesses the habitation of the just. Surely he scorns the scorners, but he gives grace unto the lowly. The wise shall inherit glory, but shame shall be the promotion of fools.
All right, so he scorns the scorners, but he gives grace unto the lowly. So everything you do, you want to try to do it with a humble spirit. I don't care how confident you are in something, because you're a human being. It's called a mistake for a reason. It's a mistake for a reason. You messed up. You're human. So if you approach things humbly, Yahweh will cause you where been a hole for you to step. Then you just step in the air like that imaginary box challenge these little kids be doing, and you walk right over the thing because Yahweh is giving you grace. And now when you accomplish that mission, you ain't over there proud talking about how great you are because you did this mission. You giving the glory unto Yah. Praise Yah. Give him all the glory because he's the reason I was able to do this. Let's move on. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. Jeremiah chapter 10, or Yirmiyahu chapter 10. When you hear me say, a name ending in Yah, and then follow a Yahoo, it depends on how you pronounce your Wah. Some people pronounce the Wah as a Wah. Other people pronounce it as Uwah. So that's why you'll have Yirmiyahu or Yeshayahu. It's just difference of enunciations, but I accept them all because these are Yah derivatives. These are just different enunciations of Hebrew, and it would be pride and contention to try to separate yourself on something when we never even grew up in this language. We're all learning this after the fact, after we've been poisoned with this Babylonian babble of confusion language. And, one of the sisters was telling me, even earlier today, we was talking, and she said, we should try to learn to agree with each other more than to differentiate ourselves from each other. And I agree with that concept because you two cannot walk unless they be agreed. So you have to ask yourself, are you trying to walk with your brother, or are you trying to walk away from your brother? Which one is it that you're trying to do? Now, what I will do is try to walk with you and find points that we can agree on. Yeah, we serve Yah. We know who we are. We know what righteousness is. We trying to keep the commandments. Walk until it's a point of contention where you trying to commit transgression. I'm still trying to walk with you because I'm telling you, bruh, I'm rebuking you. That's transgression. Let me show you. I'm trying to walk with you. Now, if you don't want to walk on the straight and narrow path, I have to separate from you. But I'm not looking to find something in you to separate from you, because then that shows what's in your heart. And that's ego. That's what brothers will try to do, to get in this word and try to find something wrong with somebody so they can separate themselves. But at the same time, it's a little different for a covering and a husband. He got to watch what's going in the ears of his wives and his children, because at the end of the day, you see how the devil came in there and dropped that little seed in Eve's head and went all the way to the left. So we have to keep that in mind. But again, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. All right. And Shabbat Shalom, Kim, Sister Kim, good to see you. And it is for some of the new people on, and I'll confirm with some of the people returning that haven't seen us for a while. This is an open forum. You can comment on Facebook, or you can call in on the line and ask questions or so forth and so on, because this is a study. This is not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. We give a little, we take a little. Jeremiah chapter 10, and let's start this at verse 1.
Hear ye the word which Yahweh speaks unto you, O house of Yasharal. Thus says Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cuts a tree out of the forest, and the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver, with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that move it not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither is it in them to do good.
All right, so we know the camp doctrine is that they're talking about the Christmas tree here. This is not talking about Christmas tree here. This is talking about an Asherah pole. This is talking about the idols that they used to make. Now, the Christmas tree has been turned into an idol, so that could also be applied to this situation. But what they're talking about here is these Asherah poles that they used to make back in the day. And if you get into the Hebrew and start looking at these Hebrew words, you can see what they're talking about here. Go ahead.
For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Yahweh, you are great, and your name is great in might. Who would not fear you, O King of nations? For to you does it appertain. For as much as among all the wise men of the nations, and in all their kingdoms, there is none like unto you. But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanities.
All right, so speaking of those doctrine of vanities, if you go back to Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 5, where it says they are upright as the palm tree, that's where you get the misunderstanding. They think upright is a palm tree. They're thinking that that's that Christmas tree. But the Hebrew word that they use for upright, now we know the Hebrew word for the proper word for upright is yashar, the same word used in Yasharah, upright with all. But the word that they translated to upright in English here is mikshah, which is H4749, mikshah, spelled M-I-Q-S-H-A-H. And that's the feminine of H4748, rounded work that is molded by hammering, beaten out of one piece of work, upright, whole piece. That's the Asherah pole. The Christmas tree isn't molded out of one piece. It's an actual tree they cut and they fasten nails to keep it upright. So you can see how there was misunderstanding there. Go ahead, brother.
Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 9. Silver spread into plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz, the work of the workman, and of the hands of the founder. Blue and purple is their clothing. They are all the work of cunning men. But Yahweh is the true Elohim. He is the living Elohim, an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. Thus shall you say unto them, the mighty ones that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth, and from under these heavens. He has made the earth by his power, and he has established the world by his wisdom, and